Welcome, folks. Welcome to Winning on Wednesday. My name is Juan Vides, and the purpose we're here is to simply get to know each other. I always say people do business who they know, like, and trust. Speaking of knowing, like, and trusting, I'd like to introduce one of our fellow WOW members, Mark Siegel. Mark, how are you, Mark?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me here, Juan.
Thank you. So tell us quickly about yourself.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm I call myself the personal mind trainer, and what I do is a combination of personal coaching and business coaching, more likely known as success coaching, to help the entrepreneur have the right mindset to grow their business. So I help them step outside of their business and turn it into a machine that prints them money, which fuels the journey of their life.
Wow. So tell us. Thank you. Thank you. So tell us where it all began. Where did it all get started? Where were you born, raised? Tell us about
Yeah,
that.
so I was born in Plainview, Long Island, right in the center of Long Island, which I know you know.
All right.
Um, yeah, and yeah, I've lived here a big part of my life. I've lived a couple of other places along the way, but it started, traditional family, mother, father, three kids, nice house, swimming pool, all that fun stuff. So, not a rough childhood until the age of 19 where my father got cancer and passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry. And so growing up in Plainview, you had mentioned, and by the way, I do know the Plainview Diner, by the way, so that's a good
It
diner.
doesn't exist
No, it
anymore.
doesn't exist anymore. Oh my
No,
goodness.
they closed a couple of years ago. I
Oh,
can't believe it. I mean, and that was
that
there
was
my
a
whole life.
staple. That was a staple. Oh well, things are changing now, right? And are you still in Plainview or are you?
No, I'm in Dix
Oh,
Hills now.
in Dix Hill,
So
so
yeah,
that
part of Huntington. So Dix Hills. It's a nice
okay.
area.
Wow. And when you were growing up, did you have any aspirations of what you wanted to become? Because it's interesting to hear what people's stories are, and did you have any ideas what you wanted to do when you grew up?
Yeah, so a couple of things kind of shaped that. My father always had his own business, at least as long as I was alive. And that kind of inspired me. And he had gotten into many different aspects of business, but the one aspect that really piqued my interest because I was into photography is he started making holograms. And these are three-dimensional photographs made with lasers. And I had kind of a skill set in woodworking. So a lot of the holograms involved making displays for the holograms. But I was really fascinated with the technology. And, so that was really my first job was working for him. Part time, I would, take the train into Manhattan after school or during the summer. I would certainly commute there, and that was a really great lesson. And my father was obviously grooming me to take over the business one day.
Well, you were saying that discipline, that discipline early. So that was really, and then
Yeah,
you're being exposed to that. So that's great, that
and
he
then
got that.
the other big part of my training, which I've heard from a lot of other people that have been through it, is I used to deliver the newspaper. Newsday specifically, right? A local newspaper. And, it involved all aspects of owning your own business. You had to purchase product and then you had to distribute that product to customers at a markup and then collect your money and then keep track of it so that you had enough for your next week's purchase. So it taught me a lot about, managing cash flow. It taught me about, customer satisfaction, treating my customers right, dealing with difficult people, because
And that was
sometimes people weren't happy about, when their newspaper came or how it looked when it came, and I did my best to keep the product clean and looking good. So
that's great. That was your first job?
that was my first job. Yeah. 12 years
Wow.
old,
Wow.
delivering actually, yeah, 11, 12 years old, delivering newspapers.
That's
So
amazing. And to still that discipline, but you wanted to do that on your own, or was that something that your father encouraged you to do, or?
I had a friend that was delivering newspapers and he had some money, which was always appealing, as a 12-year-old kid to have money to go to the store and get, whatever,
Right.
candy and baseball cards or whatever it
Bubble gum,
was
yeah.
back then, probably not the healthiest stuff, I've come a long way since then. Um, but yeah, so like there was a new condominium complex that had opened up down the block from me, and I actually got a small neighborhood next to that, which was maybe 25 newspapers, and then the condominium complex, which at the time there were only three people there. But I grew with it and eventually had 175, almost 200 papers on my route. And my friend who had gotten me into it delivered the paper around my neighborhood, and he retired from it, I guess, at the ripe old age of like 12 or 13. And I took over his routes. Then at that point, I had about 200 papers,
Oh
and
wow,
yeah,
it's
it
amazing.
was.
I my first job was the penny savers, but I only lasted about I think about a month, and it was just a lot of work. It's a lot of work,
Yeah.
especially with a penny saver, because the penny savers, it's it's a lot different when, but I
Well,
gave
I
up.
did this for about 2 years, and at the end, I was making about $200 a week,
Wow.
which by today's standards doesn't sound like a lot, but for a 12-year-old back in
Yeah,
the
but
1970s,
oh, that's a lot of
that
money.
was a
That's a
nice
lot of
chunk of
money.
change,
That's a lot of money. Yeah,
Yeah,
different
I
times.
saved up. I bought myself a drum set. I bought myself my
Wow.
own stereo. I bought my own TV, so,
Yeah. So,
it kind of set me up to, if I wanted something, I would go and earn the money and get it for myself,
wow.
not to put the burden on my parents.
So you talk about drum sets and music. So and what hobbies? What are your hobbies and interests? I mean, obviously it sounds like you like music, right? I mean, drum sets.
I love music. Yeah, I definitely love music. Most types of music, not to offend anybody. I'm not crazy about country music, but I'm
Okay.
growing on it a little bit because all my kids are into country.
Yeah, yeah, that's the craze. Yeah.
Rap, I don't mind the music of rap, but sometimes the message doesn't resonate with me. It's not
Hmm.
very positive, you know. I get that people have their need for that, and I'm okay with that, you know. And opera never really clicked with me yet,
No.
but I love classical music.
Okay.
I love ballet. I love jazz. Actually, yeah, that was kind of a newfound passion was jazz. My son learned saxophone,
Hmm.
and I had put the drums down for a while, but I picked them back up to kind of support my son in his musical journey. And that led us to doing an awesome program that doesn't exist anymore in New York City, but it was called Jazzmobile up in Harlem.
Hmm.
And I was surprised that Harlem was like very different than the way it was when I was growing up. You could actually safely walk around the streets of Harlem. So it was nice experience with all the top jazz cats in New York City were pretty much
So,
volunteering their instruction.
are you ready for this? So
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I used to do pool service. One of the pool service in the Jamaica States was Count Basie's old house. So
Nice.
yeah, so talk about jazz. The old jazz is Count Basie, John Coltrane, and all of them. So it's pretty amazing. All the backgrounds they had that. So all that they have actually John Coltrane. I knew the director of the John Coltrane in Long Island over here. They're over here in Long Island. So it's pretty
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
how
His
the jazz.
his house is not far from where I live.
Yeah,
His
yeah.
old house.
Mm-hmm.
They're restoring it and turning it into a museum. It's been a long going project. Someday, some way,
So
somehow they'll finish it. But they have up at Hector Park up in Huntington Village, they have a festival once a year during the summer to honor John Coltrane, and
mhm,
they collect donations to towards
great.
finishing the house.
Great music, yeah, great music. I like classical music. I like all kind of music of genres. So I'm able to see that's the beauty about me that I'm able. I like what else I like also knowing the history about the how the music was made. That's also really interesting. So you can take it from rock and roll, roller stuff to everything. You name it, any kind of genre. There's always
Yeah,
a history about how the music is made and how it's fascinating how also music is always evolving with technology. Now it's just with pure instruments, so sometimes you could appreciate just the instrument, like to your point, classical music. My kids play, like my son plays the cello, so you could appreciate that going to school, at the school, hearing the music live, and you're like, oh yeah, I know that tune, I know that melody, yeah, that's a classical music, but it's coming live to you, so it's a whole different experience as well, as opposed to hearing on the radio, or on TV.
yeah.
It's almost, yeah.
Having been a musician, actively playing in clubs and stuff like that, I can appreciate live music.
Yeah,
I have friends to this day that that still have bands. They play in different clubs on Long Island, and I'll go there to watch them. And occasionally they'll let me come up and play a song or two on drums. So it's a thrill.
that's
You
that's
know,
cool.
it's a
What
lot of fun.
what real quick, what instrument do you play? Did you play?
I play drums.
Or the play drums? So that okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you
So
watch that
I
movie?
hit stuff.
Did you watch that movie Whiplash?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
So is that
was
you? Was that you? Is
no,
that you?
that's
No,
not
that's
me.
okay.
That's
No,
not
you
me.
don't.
So there's in the world of drumming, there's two types of drummers, and the first is more of a technical drummer, which is like whiplash. It's like you got to be like perfect, you got to be
Yeah, yeah.
spot on, you got to be
Right, right.
have your timing
Timing.
right,
Right.
and know that you're coordinated with everybody else, be able to sight read music and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was never me. I'm more of a feel drummer. So
Okay.
like blues and classic rock and stuff like that, where it's
Mm.
more the feel of it and the sound and the nuances. So when I started studying jazz, that was like you might as well have asked me to speak Russian or Chinese or some language that's totally foreign to English.
Yeah. So I hear one of the best drummers was the guy from Rush, one of the rock band, the Rush. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people. I forgot his name, but who's any particular drummers real quickly?
So yeah, so I got asked this at Jazzmobile, and it was very funny because it was demographically skewed. I won't elaborate on that, but I was unique there in my complexion. And the teacher asked me, goes, okay, who's your favorite drummer? And I said, and he goes, don't say Buddy Rich. And I said, Steve Gadd, right? So he's like, respectable drummer. So Steve Gadd, he's not in any particular band, but he's been with Steely Dan. He's been with Eric Clapton. He's actually probably at this point in time he's been on well over 10,000 songs. Um, his first big song, believe it or not, was "The Hustle," which I'm not happy about, but it is what it is. And but he does 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover with Paul Simon. That's him on drums. The song Asia by Steely Dan. That's him on drums. Chucky's in Love by Ricky Lee Jones. That's him on drums. And, it's just very, very in the background, but he's got the first song that I heard by him that I knew it was him was Hey 19 by Steely Dan. And I had a digital watch at the time that flashed every second, and I just happened to be looking at the watch while he was playing the song, and I'm listening every single second that my watch flashed, he hit the snare drum. And I'm like, he's like a human metronome. So he creates that pocket, but he's also got the ability
Yeah.
to put in these fills. Yeah.
Well, that's a great band, by the way. Steely Dan. It's a definitely great band. And I wanted to ask you, what was your degree in? What did you go to school for?
So I told you my father died when I was 19. So I had planned to go to college to become a pilot. I was going to go to Farmingdale, and they had a whole program at their Polytechnic Institute to become a pilot. And that was my aspiration. I loved everything about flying. Unfortunately, when he passed away, or maybe fortunately, depending upon how you look at it, I took over his business, and to pay off some loans that he had. Some insurance took care of some of it, but the rest would have put a burden on my mother, and she probably would have lost the house. So I kind of took that over, and as a result of that, I didn't go to college at that time, right? Having had multiple businesses over the years, and I don't want to elaborate on it now unless you want me to at some point, but having had multiple businesses over the years, it led me to have a cabinet shop. And then unfortunately, I took on a partner with the cabinet shop, and then went to work. Um, you know,
Yeah. What was
Partnership
it?
didn't work out,
Hmm.
and I wound up leaving the partnership, and I was working for someone else and wound up cutting my finger on a table saw.
Oh wow.
So that led me to realize that everything I did to make money involved using my hands. And a friend of a friend introduced me to the world of marketing and sales, and he took me under his wing and was mentoring me, gave me a stack of books to read. And I happened to be talking to my chiropractor about one of the books, and he was telling me how he could read this book in one day. And I was
Wow.
like, how do you do that? So that led me to the course called Photo Reading by Paul Shealy, Learning Strategies Corporation out of Minnesota. And that led me to a guy who taught the photo reading course in South Jersey. And he also taught NLP and hypnosis. So I studied with him to learn NLP and hypnosis, not a college level course, but then that led me to University of Santa Cruz in California, had a program shortly after that, a summer program. So I went there and I studied with the creators of the field of NLP and learned directly from them, and got certified as a practitioner, master practitioner, and ultimately a trainer of NLP. And along with that, became a master practitioner and trainer of hypnotherapy as well.
Wow. Well, I didn't know that you did the photo reading. That's something because I'm the type of person that I'll be honest, I'm more of an audio. I like to listen to the books, so I retain more information that way as opposed to I do read it, but I just maybe that's something I have to look into. I never
Yeah,
thought about
photo reading is cool because you think that a photographic memory is a gift that only certain people have. And the first thing that they demonstrate for you in photo reading is that everybody has that ability. It's a skill and you can learn it and you can develop it and you
it.
can enhance it.
We'll definitely have to talk offline about that. That sounds very
Yeah.
interesting. I don't want to keep up the whole
Yeah, it's a
information.
cool program. And he
Yeah,
does
but
it actually online now.
mhm.
So it's worth it taking it from the developer.
Okay, excellent. And then, so tell us about your journey about what you're doing now. So, I mean, you've gone to all this experience that you've gone through, and then you got your certification. I mean, like, so what are you currently doing now? Like,
Right. So, a couple of years ago, my son asked me, "What do you do?" Right? He's like, "Yeah, I know you do this NLP stuff, this hypnosis stuff, this coaching stuff. Like, what do you do?" Right? So that's where I came up with it. All kind of ties together with the personal mind trainer, which is really about the NLP, the hypnosis, and the coaching combined into one process to help entrepreneurs, small business owners to kind of get out of their own way and grow their business. So a lot of the limitations in the business are the business owner because it's very hard to separate the two. You've worked with a lot of small business owners.
right?
Their personal life and their business life are kind of intermeshed.
Yes.
It's very hard. People talk about balance, but I talk about harmony between those. So coming back to music, right? I love the analogy of music. The drums are never in balance with the bass. The guitar is never in balance with the keyboards. The vocals are never in balance with the saxophone, but there's always harmony within the good music. So at any given point, someone might be soloing, or louder or more pronounced than the other instruments, which happens throughout life. So sometimes we're more focused on our health. Sometimes we're more focused on our finances. Sometimes we're more focused on growing the business. Sometimes we're more focused on taking our next vacation.
Right.
So, or our relationships. So, there's health and there's wealth and there's love, and there's no balance between them, but there can be harmony. So that's my philosophy behind that. And I love working with entrepreneurs, like I said, earlier, that
And,
I've always had that mindset of the entrepreneur. To me, the expression is, if it is to be, it's up to me.
well,
So
Well, this leads us to a good opportunity to talk about the golden nugget. And the golden nugget is if you want to leave some piece of information that can be better themselves, be a better their careers, be a better person overall. You want to share some examples of that where you learned from your experience?
there's two things. First of all, um, for someone who doesn't meditate. that's that's all I can say. Find a way that works for you. I've
Hmm.
I've done programs. I got a program recently called Zen 12, which is 12 minutes of it could be guided meditation, or it's just music that brings you down. There's 12 levels to it, and they're each about 12 minutes. So you do one until you progress to the next, and it gets you into deeper and deeper levels of meditation. So the best expression I heard around that is, If you believe in a higher power, we do prayer, we do whatever, we ask, the higher power to grant us some wish or something like that. So we're asking questions of the higher power, right? Meditation is where we quiet down and we listen for the answer, right? So great things come in meditation. My inspiration, a lot of my great ideas, a lot of my book came from uh, moments of meditation, and it could be however you want. Sometimes some people have like walking meditations. um, the best form, if you can get to it, is purely silent meditation, maybe with an internal mantra. My other advice that a lot of people in the field of self-growth, self-help are, they do affirmations, so a classic one is like, I'm a money magnet. I'm a money magnet. I attract money to me. This or something better is coming my way. Combination of law of attraction and, you know, people are doing this to affirm things. But in my mind, a lot of people are affirming things that are not true yet. So there's that opportunity for the unconscious mind to go BS, right? That's not true. Negate, 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 right? So I've learned a couple of things over the years, and this is a tip that I would love for people to implement and give me feedback on how they like it. So instead of saying I'm a money magnet or this or something better is coming to me, turn it into a question. Because this is the number one thing that I've learned through all the tools that I have, is that questions are the best thing for coaching, because the questions directionalize your thinking, they intentionalize your thoughts. So if you, instead of saying, I am a money magnet, say, how am I a money magnet? The unconscious mind can't dispute the question. It has to answer it. Even if you don't consciously have an answer, the unconscious mind answers that. And it starts directing your thinking to, well, how am I a money magnet? How can I attract money to me? Why am I a money magnet? What's the value of me being a money magnet, right? So this starts to bring wealth into your life.
And you could say
Who
you,
else would benefit from me being a money magnet? So obviously
right.
my daughters, you know, my son, my family,
So essentially, you just like in a sense, you're kind of programming your subconscious mind into into that, and you could always be positive too. I mean, always because if you're always thinking of negative things, that's always going to be positive. So yeah,
Right. So the other thing around that, and I'm going to brand this to some point, maybe this is the start of it, is if you ask the wrong questions, then the answers don't matter.
wow,
So many people, they get
yeah,
into a situation, why is this not working?
right,
Who cares why it's not working? What will make it work?
right,
Right?
right, right,
You know,
right,
I
and,
yeah, I
and
contributed to an article this morning actually that was, talking about that, that people, like, what happens when you fail? How do you shift your mindset around a failure? So for me, I look at it, we're on this journey, right? And it's an entrepreneurial journey, it's a life journey, it's all one journey, it's us,
it's a
right?
roller coaster ride.
Yeah. So it's a roller coaster ride. And it's exactly what you said. A roller coaster has ups and downs and pits and valleys and twists and turns, right? But every single part of that roller coaster ride is the journey. You can't cut out any part of it. Otherwise, it ends
Yeah,
really abruptly, and not
right.
in a good way. So the thing is, these quote unquote failures or setbacks, and I was pointing this out to one of my clients the other day, is that they were having a major setback. And I go, this is, if you look at it as part of your journey, then how can you learn from this? How can you grow from this? How can you step up or step around it so that you grow from it and it makes you a better person, a better entrepreneur, a better,
Right.
member of your
And
family.
and to reiterate to what you said originally about meditation, I solely agree. And one of the things they say when you close your eyes and sing silently, they say that you're connecting to the universe. And so
Absolutely.
you have to connect to the universe and become one. So that's it gives you that peace of mind. But a lot of great people use meditations. One of the greatest success stories, the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls won championships after championships. Phil Jackson would get all the players before practice to meditate. Is that
Yeah.
crazy? This is
No,
your
I
own
don't
share.
think it's crazy.
Yeah,
I
but I'm
mean,
just saying it. But the guys would think,
a lot of
yeah,
professional athletes, and
yeah,
and I've worked with some professionals,
hmm,
to do more of the hypnosis aspect of what I
right,
do. So I mean, you've experienced my virtual vacation,
yes,
right?
yes, it was good. Yeah,
So a lot of people say, well, I don't have any issues that I need to work through with hypnosis, but the thing is, with the virtual vacation, you can create a positive experience with it and live
right,
into that and have that feeling of relaxed, like you just took a 3-week vacation, but
hmm,
you can access that at any time without having to go anywhere.
right. Right before we get into the services, I wanted to also ask you the networking groups. What other network groups do you belong to, or spheres of influences, or other communities that you belong to? Besides
So,
WoW, besides WoW, besides
you're
WoW,
gonna
of course.
you're gonna like this answer, and it's gonna
Okay,
seem like a setup, but really the biggest networking that I've been doing over the last several years is WoW. You know,
okay,
And, from that, I've met some other people. And, as the world opened up again, I've done some live and in person networking groups. I don't necessarily feel strong enough to promote any of them. I'm more involved in different professional organizations around, the field of what I do, online groups mainly because it's just convenient. I've been involved in several, not necessarily networking groups, but more masterminds where we all help each other grow our businesses, but it does become a referral network.
hmm, right,
But believe it or not, my biggest networking has been through, like, I go to a meditation center in Amityville called Science of Spirituality, and I've met some great people there. I'm not necessarily going there to meet business people, because most of them aren't, but occasionally you meet someone and you resonate, and here you are having this common experience. So I found that, meeting people at the gym when I'm working out and we just happen to start talking, to me that has worked organically. um, One of my more recent clients I met on a plane on the way back from a conference when I was flying back from Orlando to New York. So, and he's in East Africa.
right,
So you never know where you're going to, people are all around, you know,
right,
and
right.
sometimes, like I told you, I went last night to a networking group, and it it can feel contrived sometimes, and that's what I like about your group. It's a little different, and you put people into breakout groups, and it's similar people over and over again, but it's not the usual suspects kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's that you get to really, like
Hey,
you say, know, like, and trust these people
yep.
so that you feel comfortable, not just passing along a lead to them, but actually being able to refer someone with confidence that I know this person will take care of you.
And you know what it is also is, it's like small doses, like it's like not in your face like every week or something like that, but it's more like more small strategic, like more, it's more organic, and I like the relationships that build up organically over time because you get more familiar. It's like I always say, it's like Cheers, a place where everybody goes to know your name. After a while, when people get comfortable with you, they know you, like you, and trust you, and that's where the business starts, and a lot of collaborations. There's a lot of collaborations that happen in WoW, and it's
Yeah.
always refreshing for me to see that because it's something that it's all about that energy you put out, right? You put out that positive vibe and that energy, but I think
Well,
it's
even fun things where I just did something on a lark and it became a meme, where I would
Mhm.
say, stop
Yeah, I remember that.
and think about, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I've
Everybody,
used that
but
as kind of and now we get like other people, like Joel would say, stop,
oh, I know.
like, even to this day, when I call people up one on one, the
It's like
first thing they say to me is stop.
stop. You
Right.
get that,
So it's,
you know, it's
but
such
if
a
you think about that from an NLP, from a hypnotic point of view, from a conversational point of view,
mm,
like, it's hardwired as a kid. Our parents
yes,
told us stop, we stopped, and then we figured out why they were saying it. So
but
it's actually,
and,
it gets people to stop.
and now I'm gonna connect this with the marketing, and with marketing is the consistency, because over time you become synonymous with that brand. It's like that brand that you have to advertise. So after a while, and I had this conversation with somebody else where that person that that they've been for that bank, for example, for 30 years. When you think of that bank, you're like, oh, I know that person. Just like that person comes to mind. Yes, the bank, the logo comes, But then secondary is that person that you know that you know that for many years, you know. So it's that becomes synonymous with the brand.
Yeah. I tell you that that is something that's also great business advice. Know the top business person at your bank. Go to the same branch and know the manager at the bank. It comes in
Oh,
super handy being a
you
business owner,
you'd be
right? My
surprised.
first experience, I was in Farmingdale. I was part of the Farmingdale Chamber of Commerce, and the head of the Chamber of Commerce was the president of the bank. That was literally the closest bank to where my office was. So I switched my account to her bank, and it just became, you know, she would literally, I mean, I don't think banking's quite the same today, but back in 95 it was a little bit different. But she would call me up and say, we got this thing going on, what do you want me to do? Right, she would give
Yeah,
me a heads up before the bank canceled the payment, or whatever happened with the account. She would call me first to say, what do I want to do about it? So having that relationship with the branch manager, the president of the bank, that's invaluable, I think.
well, any kind of networking really, because you never know. And what's nice about that, that over time, these like branch managers become vice presidents and CEO of banks. That's really pretty amazing. But over time, that and again, it's about networking and nurturing those relationships.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to talk about now. You have a book, right? You have a book out. I see it.
Yes.
Like you have a book out.
Ta-da. Yeah.
Ta-da, you have a book out. You want to
Yeah.
talk about that and talk
Subtle,
about this?
right? I do have, it does actually exist. There's a
Okay,
hard
it's not a,
copy of it,
okay. There you go. Okay, so let's talk about your book.
Yeah. So there's six parts to the book. I mean, there's more parts in the book, but the six main parts, and this is from years of doing this program one on one with entrepreneurs, small business owners, and professional salespeople, is design the ultimate you, right? So it's not the best you, it's not a better you, it's the ultimate you, right? So six parts to that I found really work to help shape the mindset of the owner to ultimately lead the business to success. Is one, having a clear vision of what they want. So we go through a process, and this is in the book. So, I actually, had a couple of people last night that bought the book from me in person, and they're like, well, this looks like a quick read. And it is a quick read, but it's not meant to just be read. It's meant to be like a workbook. Like I said before, questions directionalize the mind. So most of the book is questions, and then there's spaces to answer the question in the book. So it's a write-in book, or grab a moleskin or something that you can journal in along with the book. But it's meant to be a working book in the sense that the book coaches you through the process. So the first part is creating the vision. So I relate it to a car, right? A car journey, let's say. So you decide, I want to go west, right? That's great. You got a vision. We're heading west. That's the big picture. That's where my life is going. I'm going west. And no specific destination. But if I'm heading west towards, let's say, San Francisco, I'm going to pass through a number of cities across the United States along the way, and there might be sites that I want to see. But generally, my life is heading this direction. This is the way I want it to go. Right. So that's the big picture vision with the details that shape that make it redundant that this is where I'm going. The second part is now you got to release the brakes before you can go anywhere. Right? You're not going to get far if you have the brakes on, or you're tied up or chained to a big concrete block or to a pole 10 feet into the ground. The car's not going to go very far. So you got to release the brakes. These are the limiting beliefs that people have, the negative emotions that they have, the anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt that they have in their life. So it's releasing all that stuff from the past, and all of that negative inner voice, and all of those limitations, the I can't do this, and I'm not good enough, and I don't feel safe doing this, or I'm not really successful type of person, I'm not an entrepreneur, I don't deserve this kind of money. So all of those limiting beliefs that are just constructs in our mind, so to release those, that's the second part. Right. So now you know what direction you're going in, and you can start moving forward even without hitting the gas. Right. The next step is to fine tune the steering, which is about your decision strategy, right? So most people don't realize they have a decision strategy, but once they do, they can make conscious awareness to that decision strategy. So the real ultimate goal of that is, so imagine if every decision that you made from this moment on in your life was a good decision that you felt good about in the moment and long term. And even looking back, hindsight being 2020, you say, you know what? Given the information I had, that was the best decision I could have made. So that's the steering. The next part is to program the GPS, right? So, what route am I going to take? Turn left, turn right, go straight, go around, whatever it is, that's the GPS route. And like you mentioned before, the roller coaster, right? So the GPS route is our route, but sometimes we don't stick to the GPS route, or something happens and we make a wrong turn or whatever, and then it recalculates. So this is kind of the blueprint, looking at like 10 key areas of life over about 8 time frames. But it's not about setting 80 goals. I have a special process to create that into projects. So there's one or two, maybe three going on at any given time, but there are multiple areas of life and multiple time frames. And that's the GPS programming, right? And then the next part is the fun part. It's the rocket fuel. It's like I feel great. It's the state of mind. It's I'm excited, I'm enthusiastic, I'm motivated. But then it's also I'm calm and I'm relaxed and I'm focused and I'm driven, you know? So, one of my favorites, one of my clients said, I really like that combination of calm enthusiasm, you know? So like, and that was her thing. She latched onto that calm enthusiasm. When she applied calm enthusiasm, she started to grow her business. Right. It wasn't one of these businesses where people could walk in, she was teaching, she was doing like very holistic stuff and selling crystals and had a salt cave meditation room, and she did Reiki and all that. So if people came in, she's like, hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 like, no, people would leave, So she had to have that calm enthusiasm, and it really fit what she was looking for. So now that you know what direction you're going in, you release the brakes, you fine tune the steering, you program the GPS, you added the rocket fuel, it sparks off the guardrail. And now what could get in the way, right? So the last part is about not necessarily eliminating the obstacles, but eliminating the ones that you can, but more so preparing that whatever comes up, you can handle it, right? So that dip in the roller coaster, that setback, that obstacle in the middle of the road, right? You got the fine-tuned steering so you could steer around it, or you got wings, you could fly over it, or you got a drill, you could tunnel under it. Or my favorite one is put lasers on the front and just blast it out of the way and keep going, right? So that's the 6 parts of really what this book is designed to help you design you and your life and your business all as one to be the ultimate.
Wow, and you've obviously taken a lot from what you learned, and it's almost like taking that negative and turning it into a positive. From your experience, what you learned through your life, you had to start at a young age, and as an entrepreneur, and now you've taken what you experienced and writing this book is truly amazing. Wow,
Yeah.
wow,
I
Mark,
had
it's
I had a good friend who partnered with me to actually start New York Institute of Hypnosis. And he had the Sydney Institute of Hypnosis and the Melbourne Institute of Hypnosis. And he says, why don't we start the New York Institute of Hypnosis? And I'm like, no, that has to be taken. Right. And then I researched it and like, no, it's not taken. Let's take it.
wow,
Right. So in starting that, but we would walk into a bookstore and he'd literally walk out with a stack of books like this high. Right. And I'm like, what? He'd buy like $500 worth of books. And I was like, that's crazy, right? And he says, you don't understand. He goes, this book, right? This guy put 35 years of his life experience, all of the things that he studied in this one specific field of study. And for $25, you get that. The best of the best, filtered down, all the tips and tricks without the fluff of everything that he's learned over 35 years from knowledge, study, school, college, life experience, working with people. And he's condensed that into 100 pages, 200 pages, 300 pages, and you could read that and glean all of his life experience for $25. Come on. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, that reframed it for me. So I put that into, the consideration of creating my book. It's not a long book. You
Right.
could read it in one day,
And
but it's 30 years of my experience of all the classes that I've taken, and it's what I think are the tools that people could use to grow
and
themselves in their business.
Mark, where could they find this book?
It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes and Noble, it's on pretty much all of the sites where you can get, books online. Um, it's available in hardcover, paperback. Um, it's available as an ebook and an audiobook. The audiobook is it was really very interesting. The audiobook is not my voice, even though that was my original intention. It was very weird hearing someone else read my stuff. It was really cool. So
Is it
I like the audiobook as a supplement to it. But for me, I like the physical paper book because then you can write in it, and and people can also reach out to me directly to get a copy of the book.
right? And that's the Entrepreneur's Guides to Design the Ultimate You, your 6-step journey to work and life harmony. That's by Mark Siegel. That's amazing. So thank you so much, Mark. And again, thank you for sharing your story. And one more time, what's the best way to contact you with you?
So the best way to contact me is the website around my book, designingtheultimateyou.com. And that will have links to other resources and bonuses from the book, as well as my contact information. My email is mark@designingtheultimateyou.com.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for sharing your story. And if you would like to be a member of Winning on Wednesday, simply go to our website, www.winningonwednesday.com, and click on the first time guest on the bottom. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. And see you next time, Mark. Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you.